Hey everybody, Patty Ann here. Welcome back to step 3 of getting used to using your silhouette machine. I hope by now you're starting to feel just a tiny bit more comfortable. As I promised last session, this session we're going to do something kind of fun. We're going to go over to where the panels are over on the right hand side of your screen, and we're going to start looking at those panels and all the options that we have there. But we're going to specifically hone in on the offset panel because it is so much fun. It's one of the ones that everybody loves to use because it really gives you a lot of bang for your buck. So join me down here at my screen and let's get started. Okay, so here we are at my screen, and what you're going to know how to do by the end of the day is how to make offsets on text like this so you can make beautiful cake toppers or things to go on cards or banners or even on shirts, whatever you'd like. So let's get started by looking over here, and we'll just begin with an overview of the panel area over here on the right. So I'm going to open up a new page so these things don't bother us or confuse us. So I just come up here to the top, right under the word object, look down, there's the printer, and then there's a plus sign here, which allows me to open a new page, and there we go. It comes up to the page setup. My page setup is fine, so I can X that out. So let's look over here at the page or the panels. There is the page setup panel that you just saw. And then there's the Pix Scan panel, but we're not going to use that in this course, although I'll have other courses where I will show you in depth how to use that. There's also a color palette here, or fill panel, the line style panel. So the next one you'll probably like is this one that I think looks like a piece of toast. It's called the trace panel. And we're going to go over that in one of our little sessions here. I think it will be in step number 5, I think. The next one has to do with some effects. And then this is the text style panel. Now you will use this a lot maybe next week in lesson number 4. So there's some more. You can make your own fonts here, but we're not going to go over that in these sessions. This panel right here is the transform panel. This is the replicate panel. The next one is one that you'll really love to learn also, and that's called the modify panel. The next one is the one we're going to go over today, and that is the offset panel. Notice how it looks like a star with an offset on it, and that's what we're going to learn how to do. Then there are several more panels down here, and if time permits, we'll go all the way to the bottom and we'll go to the rhinestone panel because that's a lot of fun if you like to add bling to things. So again, we're going to start here today at the offset panel. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to come over here, way over here on the opposite side, and just get a circle with the drawing tools. Hold down my shift key and draw a circle. Now if you want to follow along with me on your computer, feel free to do so. So you'll just get a circle, hold down your shift key and draw a circle. And you see it comes in as the automatic default color of blue. I'm tired of that color. I'm going to change it to something else, maybe orange or whatever. All right, now I'm going to make an offset on this. To make an offset while it is selected, I'm going to come over here to the little star that opens up the offset panel. I'll click on it to open it, and notice this panel opens up. Notice there are 2 different ways you can offset. There's the offset, which means it's going to be in the outside of the image or the letter, and then there's the internal offset that will be on the inside. We're going to mostly mess with offset that's on the outside today. So if I click on the word offset, notice this is the default amount that it's going to offset, 0.125, and you notice it put an offset around this just automatically. I can say apply if I want to, or if I'm not sure if I like that, I could change this offset to something else and hit enter on my keyboard. And as long as I don't hit apply, I can keep changing this number to something else and hit enter, and it'll change the offset right here. So let's see if we make it 0.25. 0.5. Look at a big offset that is. Let's cancel this and let's just make it the regular size. So again, I have to select it and say offset. I'm going to leave it at the default of 0.125 and say apply. And now if I want to, I can change the color of that offset simply by coming up here to the color area and clicking any color I like. Perfect, just like that. What if I want a couple of rings around this thing? I can make another offset. Notice it puts another one here. Again, I can come up here and change its color. Let's do one more. Offset. Let's make this one a green. Okay, let's delete this one now and let's go on to using letters. So I'm going to come over here again to the letter or the text tool and I'm going to type in happy birthday. And an exclamation mark. And now I'm going to change this font to something on my computer and I know a lot of people absolutely love. And it's called Magnolia Sky. So there it is there. That's a free font that you can get from dafont.com if you don't have it and you like it. So notice the letters come in all really nicely close together. The only thing is if I scroll in closely, you'll be able to see that there's lines like look between the R and the T. They're overlapping. So to fix that, all we do is select everything, right click and say weld. Because right now these are individual pieces. If I was to cut this out of vinyl, it would cut the H and then it would cut the A and that would go right into the A. So there'd be little slits and things cut into the different letters. But if we right click on this and say weld, watch what happens right here on the letter A. Perfect. So now it's just going to cut like this on this side and go around the A, and over here it will go like this. So that's perfect, exactly what we want. But now let's offset this because let's imagine we want to use this as a cake topper. So right now it wouldn't be a very good cake topper because they're separate words and even the B is separate from the rest of the word birthday and the exclamation mark is separate, as is the dot of the I. We can fix that easily though by creating offsets. So let's come over to that star tool again over here. Opens up the offset panel. Let's click on the word offset and I'll just leave it at the default right now. So I think that I will make that a white offset. So I come up here to the color swatch area and I can change it to white. Okay, that looks pretty good. But you know, I'm back to that blue that I don't like, so I'm going to change that blue if I can now. Let's see. I can change it there. So I'll change the blue to maybe pink. And I'll get this B by itself, remember, because it's not touching the others. So I'll have to hold down my shift key and get the rest, including the exclamation mark and the dot of the exclamation mark. Still holding down my shift key. And I'm grabbing the I. So now I have all those parts selected. So I can come up here and click and change it to the pink. I made that a brighter pink, didn't I? So let's make this one the same color. Okay, there we go. All right. Well, notice these words still aren't connected, so I'd have two pieces if I was doing a cake topper. So what I can do now is just grab these again, and if I want to, I can group them so they stay perfectly, and grab them and offset again. And this time, if you look at these offsets, look how they're running into each other. And that's exactly what we want to have happen. So I'll color that another color. Maybe I'll make that one black just because I can. Okay, so there is the offset. That would be the cake topper, and that would be all we'd have to do. Now notice it's all totally connected. I would group it again so I can move it together. And now what I would do is I would make this as a print then cut for my Cameo machine. Now to do that, what I would need to do is I'll have to come up here to the page panel, and I'm going to change the size of my page because I want it to reflect what I'm going to be printing this on. So I'm going to change the page size to either current printer or 8.5 by 11. That's what my printer prints. Now that's not going to go on there properly like that. So I'm going to have to go like this and twirl it around so I could put that on that sheet. But another thing I need to do is I need to turn on the registration lines or the registration marks. Those are the marks that my Cameo machine is going to read so it knows where to cut. And I'm going to show you that when we head over to my machine. So let's say the style of my registration marks is going to be type 1 because I'm using the Cameo. And there are my registration marks. Let's zoom out a little bit. Okay, let's see. So I want to make sure that my things that I'm printing and cutting do not go outside of these red cut lines. Okay, I don't want them to go over this checkerboard stuff either. So there's that one. I can put him like that. Perfect. And I could just print and cut this like this. By the way, if your red lines aren't showing here to show you where the cut line is that you can't go beyond, if you come back up here to the page setup, all you have to do is toggle on this thing that says show cut border. So see when it's off, it's not showing up. If I put the show cut border on, there we go. So now I'll come back over here again and make sure everything is right. This is the registration page. Looks good. What I could do if I want to right now is I could go ahead and make another one of these. So I could hold down my Alt key and just drag a second one over. And maybe even a third one. Let's see. No, the third one won't, well, will it? Nope. A third one won't quite fit unless I twirl it around like this. So you can play with these while they're on this, and then it will fit like that. The third one will perfectly. So I could make 3 of these in case I wanted to have it 3 layers thick, in case I really wanted it thick and I wasn't cutting it out of a strong material. So the next thing that I could do now is I could go to send, and as you can see, it shows what it's going to cut, the outer edge of all of these. This one's touching here a little bit. I think I'll move it apart just a tiny bit and make sure it's not going over. Okay, and this one's touching right here, so I think I'll use the arrow key on my keyboard and move it over just a smidgen. Okay. All right, that's perfect. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to send this to my printer. So I would come up here to where the printer icon is at the top of my screen. Right here it is. And I would click on Send to Printer. I would choose the printer that I have. Okay. And I have the HP over there. Another thing that I would probably do is come over here to Preferences. Now each person's printer is probably set up differently, but this is how mine is, my HP. I would say it's going to be on cardstock, so I would probably say a matte paper. And for print quality, I would probably say best, because I want this to be really good print quality. And then I would say okay. And then the next thing I do is I would just put the cardstock into my printer and print it off. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to click on the word print and get started, and I'll meet you back here. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do was I just printed out one of these since it was just for a sample of mine. So what I need to do is I need to make sure that I orient this exactly the same way that it is on my screen. So I know that the dark black square has to be in the upper left-hand corner of my mat. So here's my mat. I'm going to put this in the upper left-hand corner of my mat because when I take this over to my machine, the little light is going to come on and it's going to look for these registration marks. And once it finds these registration marks, it's going to know exactly where to cut this. So follow me over to my machine next. One last thing before we go to my machine, we need to change the settings over here. I'm not using sticky flock, I'm using cardstock. So I'm going to click on this drop down menu and get plain cardstock. I'm not going to use the auto blade, I'm using the ratchet blade. And so what I need to do is I need to make sure that my ratchet blade is set on 4 for the cut depth. And these others will just be as they are. So let's go over there and we'll get it set up now. Okay, I'm over here and I'm ready to go ahead and load in my mat. I make sure that it's lined up by the triangles over here, the edge of the mat, and it's underneath these 2 little white rollers. I'll hit load. It loads it right in there. Then I'm going to go over to my computer. I hit the word send on my computer. Right now what it's doing is the little light is on and it's checking to see where the registration marks are on the card, like right here. It's seeing where those are. And then it's going to know exactly where to cut my piece. Here we go. It's going to cut all the way around the outside. Okay, it says the job is complete. I always like to test first before I take it totally off in case I need to send it through again, but that looks like that went perfectly. So I'm going to unload it. And now we have a perfect print then cut. And I could have done more of these and layered them together so that it would make a really perfect cake topper. If I'd layered more or done it on, or had put another piece of maybe a chipboard behind it, this would still work just fine on a cake. But if you want it to be something thicker, you could put multiple layers together. But my point is, isn't that fun? How easy it is to make that offset and how beautiful it turns out. This would look so pretty with the mini. Let's go over and check it out. Okay, I think Minnie turned out really super cute. This is the happy birthday that we just made, this one here. I had messed around with this one earlier, just changing where I had the colors, and I changed it to say second birthday. I just added that text in there before I started putting my offsets on. This was just something I found on the internet, as was this, but on Minnie here, I did add an offset to her as well. So I hope you enjoyed this class. We will be working more on text next week. I have something interesting to show you in case you have some fonts that have some extra little swirly things or that kind of stuff that's hidden usually, and maybe you've used Babel Map for those before, or I forget what you use for your Macs, but I'm going to show you how you can find all those glyphs right within this program if you have the business edition. Okay, so be sure to join me next week. You'll be getting the email for it where we will be doing that. So again, thanks for joining me. I hope you're enjoying these classes and learning from them. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks. Bye-bye.